boy, do we have another doozy with Miss Susan Bratton. This is part 2 of a conversation. So we actually talk about hot span and how to increase your health span and your longevity by having more frequent sex. We actually talk about 50 Shades of Grey at the end of the episode, so you'll have to stick around to the end to hear. We are going to be diving in. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Carrie Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee! All right, Susan Bratton, my friend, welcome to the Happy Hustle podcast again for, this is technically part 2 of a amazing conversation that we had, and we knew we had to bring you back because you are a wealth of knowledge. You are an intimacy expert to millions. You are a happy hustler who's running multiple successful online businesses. But all in all, you're just an awesome human, and I love connecting with you. So welcome back to the Happy Hustle podcast.
I get to call you Daddy now.
Yes, you do.
Hi, Daddy.
Yeah, here we go.
I think you're now a hot daddy. That's exciting. I love a hot daddy.
Yeah. So since we last recorded, my wife and I welcomed little Kaizen to the world. So we have a son now, and I am a daddy, and I'm working on my dad bod. I need a DILF shirt, you know. But anyway, so I know you always drop interesting fun facts, but I do want to hear a new one. Let's see what you got. What is something interesting about yourself that maybe you haven't mentioned in the past, that maybe something that you don't talk about too much?
Yeah, I just read this new term, and it really resonated with me. This woman wrote an article, and she talked about how older people, like you were talking about being a DILF now, you're a dad, you know, older people are focused on their hot span. You know, we've talked about anti-aging and longevity, and that begat your health span. Like you want to live longer, but you want to live a longer, healthier life, which then I converted into your sex span, focusing on your sex span, because you want to have good sex your whole life long, and you're going to have sex longer now. If you're going to live to 100 instead of 80, and you're in your 40s or 50s, you've got decades of hot sex to be having. And the good news about that is that good sex actually adds to your health span. Having frequent intimacy, it extends your health span. So focusing on your sex span actually makes you live a longer, happier life. And then when I read this article about hot span, I thought, wow, that's actually a really important distinction, because I see a group of people, let's say 100 people, and in that 100 people, probably only 15% of them are people who are oriented toward their personal growth and their personal development. And so one of the things I like about being on the Happy Hustle is I am talking to growth junkies.
Yep.
And growth junkies are my people, but not all of them, only some of them. The ones who tuned into this episode of the Happy Hustle are my people, because they also are interested in their sex life. So that you take that 15%, and those are the people who are actually out of 100 who are like, yeah, my sex life is important to me and I want to keep learning more. And that may be a generous number. Then you look into that group of people, and a lot of them have this planned obsolescence mentality where they just assume that either they're ageist, where they look at old people and go, ooh, how disgusting, they still have sex, right? That's a bad mindset. A good mindset is, old people can still be hot. And
Hmm.
I'm going to be one of them. And one of the things that I see happen to men, guys, if they don't have that mentality of wanting to be a DILF, if they don't want to be fuckable, if they don't act fuckable, they're not going to get fucked. And that's the thing that I think is really important, is that you have to show up
Hmm.
with some muscle and some, peacocking, you got to look sexy. You have to really keep showing up as a sexy person.
Hmm.
And that's where some people in the older generations now, it's clear that they want to be hot. They're doing what it takes to not only to have sex, but to be sexy.
Hmm.
And when you're at this critical juncture in your relationship that you're in, Carrie, which is you've just had your first child, it's friggin' exhausting. You're running your careers and you're like, this is what I get. I'm on a lot of pregnancy podcasts too,
Hmm.
because I helped my girlfriend have an ecstatic birth, giving her ecstatic birth massages
Hmm.
through her pregnancy. And so all the moms are like, tell me more about that. What the
Yeah.
hell is that? And it's really in this free birth movement and free birth society. And so they all want to know, how do I not squander my sex life? Because this is a moment
Hmm.
where your sex life can go off the rails permanently. And
Yeah.
the people who are deathly afraid of that are like, tell me what to do. And I think it is one of those moments, but I think it comes with having the mindset that you're sexy your whole life long. You're going to stay sexy. You're going to exhibit sexiness. You're going to dress sexily. You're going to have a good sex life. You're going to put your attention on it. You're going to learn new skills. You're going to have keeping on that upward pleasure spiral that I'm sure that we've talked about in
Yep.
previous episodes. Like, that is all mindset, man, which
Hmm.
is what the happy hustle is all about. And so I just really like the question of how do you do that? And so that's what I've been thinking about, is how do I get people to start thinking about their hot span
Hmm.
and not squander their sexuality?
Yeah. Wow. I mean, it is interesting to think about, you know, people are living longer and
Yep.
we have the opportunity to be having, hot sex longer because of it. And I know you were
Hotter
recently.
and hotter sex.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're big into sexual biohacking. I know you were just with Dave Asprey and you did a whole talk with him and I tuned in to the sexual biohacking pieces specifically because I do want to have a hot span that lasts decades and decades all the way up to my, demise, right? And I
Yes,
think
till the day you die.
exactly. And I think
Yeah.
everyone should aspire that because, that's the human experience, having this intimate connection. And, one thing I just want to echo when we talk about sex, like sex isn't just penetration. And you made that very clear in our part one of this, you know,
Yeah.
um, this podcast. Sex is
Yeah.
intimate connection. And it's just about
Mm-hmm.
being intimate with your lover. And I think, especially guys, we rush to the penetration part and we forget that it's the whole experience. And we really need to take our time, slow down, show that adoration, listen, be present, and really like tune in to our partner. And I'm really excited to talk about this postpartum sex piece. Obviously, it's top of mind for me and my wife, but it's also
Yeah.
something that I think a lot of people could benefit from because, you know, having a child is something that many people experience, and also it, like you said, it can be a fork in the road when it comes to hot sex. So let's get into it. When you
Yeah.
talk
It's a
about
pattern interrupt.
exactly, yeah, I guess you would call it that. Yeah. So give
Yeah.
us, let's start from okay, obviously there's a recovery period if you had a vaginal birth. If you had a C-section, it's a little different.
Yeah.
You know, what would you recommend for those two different,
Yeah.
avenues when it comes to like the timing before you really get
Mhm.
back at it?
Yeah, that's the number one question I get. And actually, I wanted to tell you something. You said something about that sex is part of our essence, our essential self, our humanity. And I know you don't know this, but I have really good news, and that I want to share with you. And that is that there's a documentary being done on my life story
What?
and on the work I've been doing for the last couple of decades. And it's called The Gift. The documentary will be called The
Wow.
Gift. And it was funny because the filmmaker met me when he was interviewing me for he's a cause-based filmmaker. He's got a new show coming out called The Cost of Convenience, which is about how social media is sucking up
Mm,
not only our data, but all the data of our children. And
yeah.
big tech is making money off of our kids now,
Yep.
and how vulnerable they are.
Wow.
And then he has another movie coming out called Forever Young, which is how he met me, talking about sex
Ah.
span. And he started interviewing me on camera, and he was like, "Holy shit, I need to know who you are." And he said, I want to do your story because your story is really everyone's." I was like, "My story is not unique. My story is my marriage fell apart after a decade of
Mm,
not having good sex,
mhm.
after childbirth and not having good sex. And we figured out how to fix it and brought that into online programs that we've
Yep.
been doing now for a couple of decades." And so um, he got the name of the film because I talked about how our sexuality is one of the gifts of our humanity. And he
Yeah.
goes, "Stop right there. That's the name of the film, The Gift."
Wow.
And I really think this whole sex span, sexual biohacking, gift of our humanity, the intimacy is the thing that helps you live the longest. I mean, the Harvard longitudinal study is like, full stop. It's relationships that matter, our close
Mhm.
relationships that matter. And the ones that orgasmically activate your brain and your vascular system and reboot your nervous system and deliver a release of feel good neurotransmitters and, all of the hormone flood that you get. I mean, that single intimate action is one of the number one things we can do to have great sex. And we hit that roadblock in postpartum. And what women tell
Mm,
me is when you ask your doctor, he says 6 weeks. That's
mhm.
their pat answer. Every doctor, because there's no answer, but the women want an answer. And then women are like, "I'm not ready at 6 weeks and I feel guilty. I'm forcing myself." Or, "So I don't even want to wait 6 weeks. Why do I have to wait 6 weeks? I want to have sex right now." And
Mhm.
so that 6 week construct is not helping. And that's a lot of what I talk about with women on birth podcasts is, you know what's happening with your body. And there's a huge range of women across that expression. And for some women, they've had vaginal births that they've had to have episiotomies, or there's been tearing, or it was a really long labor. They've had some prolapsing. There's all that things are not going back to where they were as fast as they did. I remember it took me 18 months for all my joints and ligaments to tighten up. I was like sliding down the stairs for a year and a half, waiting for my knees to tighten back up. I mean,
Wow.
everybody has such a different response. It's
Yeah.
not fast for a lot of women. Other women, it's a very easy birth. It's very fast. They've got they have a high libido. I mean, one of the things that's really nice about breastfeeding is that if you look at a baby that is just allowed to do whatever they want with breastfeeding, that baby is constantly nursing, taking little sips, coming up, taking little sips, coming up, taking little sips, moving around, stimulating one nipple while they're sucking on the other nipple so that they can get the milk to come down. So when they latch onto the second breast, there's milk ready for them. I mean, they know what they're doing. Like if a mom is shooing away that nipple stimulation, like my baby shouldn't be pleasuring my nipples. that comes from shame and repression. They're not getting the same amount of milk flow that the woman who's just like, play with my tits, like make it all come down. It's great. I love it. You can have as much as you want, you just lay on me. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so interesting to see the different responses. And so much of female response around their sexuality is rooted in a combination of their general health. And what's happening in America is ultra processed foods are ruining
Yeah.
women's health. And so
Everyone's
they're
health.
not everyone's health.
Yeah.
We've got addiction, obesity from ultra processed food that's ruining everyone's health. And so depending on their is their husband cooking them whole food meals while they're in postpartum recovery? Or are they just getting takeout delivered or eating packaged pre-produced? I mean, there's so many things that are affecting her health that there
Yeah.
is no answer other than she knows inside when she's ready. So
Yep.
what can her male-bodied partner do? And the cesarean, in some cases, can be worse than the vaginal birth because they've cut through like 9 layers of
Yeah.
tissue
Yeah.
and stitched it up, and you can't move very well. It's very tender. So that also, I mean, it's in your pelvic bowl, it's your abdomen. It's, when you orgasm, the contractions could be pulling on those stitches. I
Yeah.
remember that Sir Tim, my beautiful husband of 30 years, he would take oil and rub that cesarean seam every day for me for like a year and a half in bed. He would just rub his thumb along that seam to get that scar keloid to break down. Those kinds of things, if a husband or a partner, or that you don't have a partner providing that, or you're just having to do it yourself, even that can be almost like when you get cut into, it stops all of the nerve and vascular blood flow into that area. And
Yeah.
what's interesting is the front of the abdomen coming down to the top of the vulva, the mons, and then down into the labia, that blood flows through those channels. So she's having reduced engorgement. And because she has as much erectile tissue inside her vulva wrapped all around her vagina as her male-bodied partner does in his penis, if she's not aware of that, which most women are not aware of that, which is why I'm always talking about engorgement, blood flow, erectile tissue, and having the time to get that flowing for her. She's got to get the flow going. And so the thing that I always say to postpartum partners is, the very best thing you can do is start with sensual belly and vulva massage and really get good at that.
Yep.
That's where you want to start. And foot rubs are really important for pregnant women because we tend to still have a little bit of edema or swelling of the feet. There can be a dysregulation in the fluid systems postpartum. And it really helps to start with foot rubs and then move into belly rubs and then move into mons, outer labia, groin, her little sweet cheeks, without going into what's called the vestibule. And the vestibule is essentially, if you take the inner labia and open it, that's the doorway, the vestibule to the vulva and vagina. That's what that is. So not even going in there. And it develops, for a woman, it develops a great amount of trust when a male partner can simply give and give and give this soothing, sensual pleasure, this healing. So there's 4 kinds of touch. There's nurturing, that's how you hold your baby. There's healing, that's what I'm talking about. There's sensual, I'm adding that in to the healing process. And then there's sexual. And I recommend a particular product now that I have been so excited to find, and it's called Foria, Foria. It's made in Colorado, where you're from.
Oh, cool. Well, Montana.
And
Montana.
Oh, you're in Montana? Oh God, I thought you were in Colorado. I love
Similar,
Montana.
same, but
Um,
different.
yep, they're they are similar.
Yeah,
So in
less people
Colorado, this
here.
company, true, so much beauty.
Yes.
Um, so Foria uses CBD, which
Oh,
are the cannabinoids, and they're called
yep.
phytocannabinoids from the hemp plant. And our cannabinoid system, what's called our endocannabinoid system, has these cannabinoid receptors in our tissues, in our organ tissues, in our skin tissues, in everything. There's endocannabinoid 1 and 2
Mm-hmm.
receptors. And our endocannabinoid system is part of our healing pathway. And it is the pleasurable healing pathway. When you heal, it's a mind body experience. And when you put the body into pleasure, it actually heals faster.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that the Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
Especially if you leverage the cannabinoid system. And so what I love about Foria is that it's non-THC. It's just endocannabinoid,
Yep.
phytocannabinoid, plant-based cannabinoids in these beautiful all-natural oils.
Mm.
They have this product called Awaken, which is an arousal oil. And what it does is it has a couple of botanicals in that oil that start sending signals to the brain to wake up and activate the tissue. And if you look at the work of Dr. Nan Wise, she was the woman, the neuroscientist, who put women in fMRIs and had their partners touch different parts of their vulva, vagina, clitoral
What's
structure, nipples.
fMRI? Just
An MRI, magnetic
MRI.
resonance.
MRI.
MRI.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's
Gotcha.
MRI. It's just called an MRI
Yep.
now. She put him in there and she could show that different parts of the brain lit up based on what parts of the genital, breast, and nipple system were stimulated.
Mm.
And you've heard your brain is the biggest sex organ. And you could stroke a clit all day long, but if there's no mind body connection, then she can't feel, or you can't, a male body, if you stroke, can't feel the pleasure. You've got to create the neural pathways to pleasure. So one of the things that I've been talking about recently is this notion of orgasmic cross training, using tools to activate the different areas of the vulva and vagina. Because most women, there's been studies that touch women in different areas of their vulva and vagina, and the women say it's pleasurable, I can't feel it, it's numb, or it's painful, or it makes me feel shame. Those are the common reactions. And really, any place that doesn't feel pleasurable is a place that can be remediated to begin to feel pleasure by having pleasurable sensation brought to it. Just
Mm.
because it doesn't feel good or there's shame there because it's been touched poorly in the past or never really been touched doesn't mean you can't activate it to get those neural pathways so that you're basically lighting up the whole vulva, the whole vagina, the breast tissue, the nipple tissue. That all works together in concert with the brain to process pleasure. And
Mm.
so during the postpartum time, if you think about, okay, my strategy here is to make sure that we take the right fork in the road, and that is
Yeah.
that our sex life keeps getting better instead of getting worse, and she basically dies on the vine, and she's not touched because I'm just pressuring her for intercourse and she's not ready for that. I'm going to take the slow right road to our future great sex
Hmm.
by leveraging this endocannabinoid pleasure healing system, getting something like Foria, this CBD based sexual lubricant construct. And I'll give you a link for that.
Yeah, please.
Um, and because there's a really nice system that has the awakening oil, and then there's a lubricant that goes on top. So basically you awaken the tissue and that enhances the pleasure. And then you use the oil for the massage. And
Mm.
what I'm saying is what you want to do is you want to become the master of vulva and vagina massage, which I call, and most kind of sexologists and practitioners who have studied tantric lovemaking, which is a more spiritual, heart connected style of lovemaking, we call it yoni massage.
Mm.
YONI, yoni being the whole pleasure system of the female genitals.
Mm.
And when you think, okay, well, my job is to basically do what Sir Tim did. I'm going to just rub the spots that hurt and soothe them with this pleasurable experience. She's just to receive. She could be nursing the whole time you're doing it. The baby can just be in the bed with you, right? The baby's just there and you're just doing this belly massage, the yoni massage. She's giving you feedback, and every time you do it, something is going to need different things. Ooh, it hurts right there. Can you just rub that? Yeah, a little more pressure. No, go lighter. Tap it. Oh, jiggle it. Oh, squeeze it, knead it, press on it. Go only from the top to the bottom, not from the bottom to the top. Oh, yeah, right there. No, that doesn't feel good. Maybe come back to that. It doesn't feel good to be touched there right now. That's too hard. That's too soft. When you start to get her telling you these things, and you're just like, thank you, baby. How is it now? Thank you, baby. How is it now? How does
Yeah.
this feel? How do you like it now? Little harder, little softer. And you get that level of communication going in your relationship in this very safe way of you being the student learning the
Yeah.
body in the moment from her. You're developing this incredible amount of trust that she can
Yes.
say anything she needs to. You're healing her. You're bringing sensuality. It's getting the prolactin to let down. It's getting her juices to flow. And as soon as she can, she's going to want more. She's going to want your penis in her hand. She's going to want some kissing. She's going to want you to stroke her breasts, maybe not play with her nipples, because early on in the breastfeeding, they're very sensitive from all the activity that they've gotten from the
Yeah.
poorly latching and all of the things. The baby's got to learn how to latch and all that. But words of adoration while you're doing it. I love you so much. I'm so happy to be,
Hmm.
in love together. I'm so happy we've started our family. Our baby is so precious to me. You're doing such a fantastic job as a mother. Your yoni's so beautiful. Your belly's looking really good. Everything's looking
Hmm.
so healthy. I love spending this time with you. I mean, when you just add those, the adoration, the appreciation, the being willing to take all the
Hmm.
feedback, the understanding it's different every day, and you're giving her just all this healing, loving pleasure. One day she's going to be like, God, thank you for hauling my ass through that. That was a tough time, and
Yeah.
you never wavered in your
Mm.
desire and your love for me. Thank you
Mm.
so much. I have the best husband in the world, bar none. And that's just going to keep your sex life. She's going to be ready for more.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that was amazing. And you know what's great about what you just said is that applies to everybody. It doesn't really like yes, we're talking about postpartum and sex after birth, but actually everything Susan just went through applies to you and your
Yeah.
partner. Doesn't matter if you're having a baby or if you had a baby or not. So, a couple things that I just want to echo. The
Yeah. I want to hear what you like the best and what you noticed. I want you to tell me
yeah.
everything
Well,
because
I
I'm
always
drinking
like
my
to
smoothie now
you drink
because
your
I got to
smoothie.
ride to my workout.
Yeah, you go, girl. You got to keep that hot span, you know. So
Hmm.
she's a practitioner of what she preaches, which that's what I really appreciate, um, among other things, obviously. But
Hmm.
okay, so the neural pathways to pleasure, like creating
Interesting, right?
that mind body connection and really stimulating that intimacy in multitude of ways, from the feet to the belly to the yoni massage. One thing that Steph really loves is the very light touch when I'm just doing fingertips on
Mm.
her head and on her arms, and like it's like gives you almost the chills. And it's that kind of stuff that I think will ultimately you know lead to more, right? But that's not the goal. The goal is just to be in the moment and to be present and to really, listen, add value, give feedback. The words of adoration, I think, is very interesting because I've been doing that, but they almost seem to, bounce off like Teflon. But I think
Yeah.
deep down they actually are
You got to keep doing
resonating.
it. They're
Right.
going in.
Yeah.
She has some issue, and most women do, most people do, receiving
Hmm.
adoration. You have to train her like a puppy to receive it. Because
Okay.
puppies, some of the puppies, when you first get them, they don't really like to be pet.
Hmm.
And then you start petting them and they're like, oh, this petting shit's not so bad.
Yeah,
Right?
it feels
It's
good.
just a learned skill. Hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, and that's like something, just I think words of affirmation, words of adoration, like this stuff really it plays on all facets. It doesn't matter, if we're talking about just your lover or your employees as,
Yeah.
a business owner, or, your family, your kids, like all this stuff, not all of it, but at least the words adoration, it can be applied. Um, we're talking now specifically about, you know, sex after pregnancy. And I know you have a pretty cool technique, will you? Something you call the dope flow sex date. Let's
Yeah.
get into that. Like, what is the dope flow sex date?
Yeah. But most people have this notion that sex is, we do a little kissing. I go down on her. Maybe I'm lucky enough that she goes down on me. And I play with her boobs for a minute and then we have intercourse. And that's kind of what people think about sex because religion has told us that sex is for procreation only.
Mm.
So the only thing that matters is intercourse because that's how you make children. And so we have this idea of there's foreplay and then there's sex. Remember earlier in the show, I said having intimacy 3 times a week will add 10 years to your life. I'm not sure if I specifically said the 10 years, but I was talking about how people who have a longer sex span, who do have intimacy 3 times a week, they live longer and
Mm-hmm.
healthier. And that was a study done in Europe, over 2,500 people, where they
Wow.
showed people these pictures of, they showed 2,500 people pictures of individuals and said, guess their age. And there was this group of people that everyone guessed to be 10 years younger than their actual age. And they could not figure out the correlation for a really long time. And then they came to the aha moment that these were people that had intimacy 3 times a week.
Mm.
And so that's how they show the correlation of visually looking younger comes from having these great intimate experiences. Well, they called it sex, but I don't call it sex because if I say sex, people think intercourse. And then most people are, especially women, they're like, I'm not going to have sex. I'm not going to have intercourse 3 times a week. I don't care. I guess I'll just have to be old and ugly, because they get so disappointed in sex over the years because it's
Yeah.
this going straight to intercourse as fast as we can, which you were even talking about that earlier in the show too.
Yeah.
And so I'm very careful to try. What I'm always trying to do is expand people's view of what sex is by getting rid of this notion of foreplay and sex, and expanding people's skill sets so that they have really good kissing skills, really good sensual massage, oral pleasuring for both partners. Like, a lot of people say to me, oh man, I don't really like 69. Like, I can't really concentrate and it's not for good. And I'm like with anything about sex, if there's something you don't like, it's because you haven't done it well, haven't learned how, haven't had it done well to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because 69, just as an example of a learned sexual skill, it's a perfect example of learned sexual skill, because I'd say the large majority of people out in the world, I'm going to say like 85 or 90%, do not regularly do mutual simultaneous oral pleasuring whether it's females, males, theys, thems, hers, sparkle pony, rainbows, that people aren't doing it. And they're not doing it because they have some kind of thing in their mind where if they're concentrating on the giving, they can't concentrate on the receiving. And what happens actually with good intercourse, with good oral, whether it's mutual or one person giving to the other, you get to a point where you are connected in this limbic trance state, where it doesn't really matter whether you're the one, whether you're getting off on the giving or you're taking a moment and getting off on the receiving. It's flowing between you, and there's no attention required to the pleasure, because it's all pleasure. No matter what's happening, it just feels incredible. You just evaporate into each other. You just surrender into this beautiful interplay of pleasure, co-creative pleasure.
Yeah.
And I think the most important takeaways are that learning how to give like breastgasms, how to stroke a lingam. A lingam is the male version of the tantric or Sanskrit words for the genitals, the yoni being the female entire urogenital complex, because it's not just the tip of the clit, the whole clit's buried inside there. The lingam, the testicles, the prostate, the perineum, that the buried shaft, that whole piece is the male. You know, it's called, the lingam is considered the penis, but it's really the whole unit. Being able to pleasure your partner's lingam and lose yourself in the pleasure, whether you're using your hands, your mouth, some toys, all of those things, or your partner just gets to lie there and go off into their pleasure zone, that can be that can be a really big turn on for the giver. So this notion of sex is just what I call squeeze a boob and stick it in has to go away.
Yeah.
And women are generally penetrated way too early, because for men, they wake up horny, they've got testosterone, they've had hard-ons in the middle of the night so hard that it wakes them up at 3 a.m. if they're healthy, if they're not eating ultra-processed food. And they're ready to go in minutes, where women, it takes us 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on, we're on that moon cycle, takes us a while to get all the blood flowing into our nooks and crannies. And so foreplay is sex. It's not different than sex. Sex isn't intercourse. Everything is sex. And so the more that we can say, okay, how do you want to start? Well, I'd like to start with the yoni massage today. Oh, I'd like to make out and stroke your penis, and you play with my boobs and nipples while we make out. First thing I want to hear is, I need you to tell me 3 things you love and adore and respect about me. And I want to do that with you while you're giving me a foot rub. I would love to give you a lingam massage first, and then I would like a yoni massage, and then I'd like to do some 69, and then I don't know what I want to do after that. I'll let you know. I got this new sex toy from, I wanted to tell you a link, orgasmiccrosstraining.com
Okay.
has the 8 tools you use to activate her vulva, her whole yoni, and the 4 that you use to activate his lingam, all of his systems. And when you start bringing all those systems online, when everything is starting to light up the brain, all these places that you touch, you start to become massively multi-orgasmic. Both the masculine and the feminine, the penis owner and the vulva owner become massively multi-orgasmic. You start to have these full body energy orgasms. Any part you touch starts to become orgasmic. That transfers into the oral pleasuring. That starts to catch on fire. It's just, the dope flow sex state is, we're going to break this pattern of racing toward intercourse, and we're going to see what sounds super hot and sexy in the moment. And what I have found, Carrie, is that, and this is not just me, this is all of my incredible mentors. I have been extremely lucky to have some of the world's brightest sexual minds be my mentors.
Yeah.
Because I believe in mentorship, as you do. And we share that value. And I have actively sought mentors in business, and my business is sex. And so I have studied under some really incredible people who have all come to the conclusion that in what we call in our business, a heterosexual pair bond, your basic dude and his lady. And I'm not excluding anyone who's not in that, but that's the big bell curve. So it's mostly who I talk to. When you're in that pair bond, if the masculine can show up for the feminine and give her the confidence in her sexuality, because it's been beat out of us culturally. If he can create the safe space in the bedroom to be her masculine sexual leader and nurture her sexuality and open her to her sexuality and encourage her and tell her 1,473,000 times that she's beautiful, because she doesn't think she is. And you just have to keep saying it and saying it. It's like adoration and appreciation. You just have to keep friggin' doing it. That's masculine sexual leadership. When you do those things, and she gets to the point where when you get to the bedroom and she's scheduled a date with you, but who knows for what, she just knows she wants to have some fun with you because you are fun in the bedroom. You get there, you land in the bedroom, you've set up the lover space, the fireplace is on, the candlelight is on, the pitcher of water's by the bed, the Foria lubes are out, all of this stuff. And you've got it all ready, and all she has to do is dissolve into pleasure and desire. And she can go inside herself and she can say, Carrie, here's what Yoni's telling me she wants today. I think it'd be really fun to do whatever, all the things I was talking about earlier. And she's just tapped into her own true desire and trusting what her body is asking her for. And she, we have our yoni lips, but they actually can't form words. But they're talking to us internally. So we have to use the lips on our mouth to say what the yoni lips would say if they could flap and speak. And when she starts to speak that to us and we're like, oh, that sounds fun. What happens is that having sex with a woman like that. So when my partners have sex with me and we get into the bedroom, they're like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I think what would be fun is, and I say the thing and they're like, that sounds great. Let's do that. It's always fun to fuck me because I always have fantastic ideas. They change every day. There's lots of variety. And it's literally just because I learned how to flap my upper lips for my lower lips.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to please the goddess. Everybody's in line with when mommy's happy, everybody's happy. When she's getting what her body is asking for, it's just going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
so that's when you know you've done a great job opening your woman to her pleasure. She loves sex with you. She feels comfortable. She's starting to ask for what her body wants, and she becomes incredibly sexually satisfied. And she's thinking of fun shit all the time. And having a sex life with her is exciting. It evolves. It's just like so fulfilling
Yeah.
that it's fueling the joy in the rest of your relationship. Not only that, but it's putting the spring in your step. It's fueling all your creativity because you're just this guy that has this incredibly sexy sex life with your partner. And you just feel so good about yourself. It's a confidence builder.
Yeah. Wow. And that is happy hustling your sex life right there. That's for damn sure. I mean, one thing that I just really want to mention, you know, you talked about just flapping your upper lips for your lower lips, like that, which I don't know if you trademarked that yet, but you should. Um, that like that should be on a t-shirt. Um, I really think that point, like women speaking what their desires are directly to their partners and men listening and asking for that feedback. Like,
Yeah.
if you take nothing else away from this episode, which I think would be near impossible, but you just took away that, I I really truly believe you and your sex life would be better off. Your life would be more fulfilling listening and iterating and evolving based on feedback and having then that masculine sexual leadership. I think you mentioned it. I mean, every time I talk to you, I get reinvigorated by my desire to become a better lover and also just to be more in tune and to like listen and be just a better human and a better partner to my wife. And I hope everyone else out there feels the same. um it's just really all about just constantly, growing and evolving, right? Like, I believe you have two options in life. You're either shrinking and dissolving or you're growing and evolving. Those are your two options in anything, business, life, health. Like, there's only one or two ways to go, right? So
Yeah.
choose wisely. Now, I will say this, and I haven't talked to you about this, but I am curious your thoughts because recently Steph and I watched the 50 Shades of Grey series. I never watched it. And I was like, wow, okay, this is intense. And she really likes it. She's watched it a bunch. I feel like every woman has a desire for a red room after this, which is like a sexual room, and maybe this is like, 2.0 or 3.0 of the upward pleasure spiral. But I am curious your thoughts on just that overall series and if you think overall it was a positive or a negative for just the psychology of sex at large.
Yeah. Um, just to finish off on what we were saying before, I want to give your listeners a link. If you like this
Please.
idea of having this free flow of communication, but you're not exactly sure the steps to start, I
Hmm.
have a little free PDF you can download at Sexual Soulmate Pact, PACT, like an agreement.
Hmm.
And it's basically a little printout that you and your partner can read. And if you're single, you can read it and you can teach new lovers this technique. But it's how to get the upper lips to say what the lower lips want,
Yeah.
and how to take that and how to encourage that behavior from your female partner. Or if you're the female partner, how to get your male partner not to take your feedback as they did something wrong, because
Hmm.
men will do that. And so women are afraid to say things. So it's a ninja technique that works. It
Nice.
bypasses their egoic response
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
lets them take it in and get better. And women do need that trick with some men, especially some men are real stubborn donkeys. They can't help it. It's just their
Yeah.
nature. So that's really good. Sexualsoulmatepact.com. You can print that out.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
so as far as, let's see, I'm just trying to think about what you asked me specifically about the shades of gray. I think there's a couple of things. It does go back to this masculine sexual leadership.
Hmm.
Women really do love to be taken on an erotic adventure by their, the leader in the dynamic. Sometimes they just want to completely surrender to their pleasure. They don't want to direct. They don't want to think up what to do. They want you to run them a menu of ideas, and they'd like you to have more of a dominating kind of just I'm in control and here's what we're doing experience. And that runs, from I want to tell you exactly what I want all the way to I just want to surrender to your ideas because we have
Mm.
a great amount of trust together and I just want to outsource the thinking today and just come like crazy for you. And so I think that's what 50 Shades of Grey tapped into was this desire to just be taken.
Yeah.
That is a very that's a very particularly feminine desire. And men are the wound that our male bodied people in our society have is that they're embarrassed or ashamed about their desire. And they're also very afraid around consent and doing something wrong and having
Hmm.
it bite them in the ass afterward.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it just takes a lot of conversation, trust, and consent to
Yep.
be able to have that. And the things that I recommend for guys as kind of the 1.0 starter 50 shades type stuff are um, pick her up and move her around. Tell her different sex positions and how to move her body to go where you want it to go and deliver sensation.
Mm.
Um, Tell her you want her to put on this sexy outfit for you. Get her a sexy outfit and slutty shoes and tell her, put this on. Um, Hold her down, pin her without hurting her, of course, but pin
Yeah.
her. Oh, she can always say, I don't like it or I don't want it or what have you. I don't want to
Straightforward.
say it's a given. I wanted to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, have her dance for you. Give her direction.
Mm.
Give her a couple of choices. Do you want me to tie both your hands and your feet to the liberator wedge, or do you want just one or the other?
Mm.
I'm going to blindfold you and I'm going to tantalize your body now. Lie down.
Mm.
Grab her in the nape of the neck back here where the hair is pretty thick right down at the bottom.
Mm.
Grab her there without pulling it too hard. Just hold it and pull her back. Get on top of her and kind of overwhelm her with your physical presence. A lot of people are talking about choking now, and choking is not what you want. You don't want erotic asphyxiation. That's dangerous shit. What you want is that there are two erectile tissue areas, one on each side of the neck, pretty far on the sides. And if you take your man hand and you put your fingers on one side and your thumb on the other, and there's plenty of space that doesn't impact her windpipe, but you
Mm.
hold your hand all the way up under her chin as you hold her down. Yep, you feel that?
Yeah.
Up here, no problem. Pressure there, pressure here, no pressure right here, no pressure in the front. When you do that and hold her down, it's super hot for her. She feels dominated with,
Yeah.
you're not going to make her cough or choke or deliver, impact her airway in any way.
Hmm.
That's another nice thing to do. So there are a lot of things that you can do. You can use a toy on her and tantalize her. Um, you can combine all these things. These are spanking is a very good one. And I recommend that you have spanking. So there's this notion that I love to teach, and it's a concept that I got from one of my mentors, Dr. Patty Taylor, which is called erotic play dates. She called them sandboxes. I like to call them erotic play dates. And they are essentially dates that you have where you're just going to learn something new together. It's not, you're not mastering, you're just beginning as beginners, you try something new. And that's a good one for spanking, impact play, etc., where she can tell you what feels good and where it feels good and how hard you can go so you can get a feel for the spanking.
Mm.
The spanking, turning her over your knee, is like a super sexy thing. You can try that first with hands to get a feel for locations and pressure. Then you could move on to some toys. Those can be really fun things to learn together in an erotic play date.
Hmm.
Shibari, another example, the Japanese art of rope and knot tying for erotic play, very popular in the 30, 40 something set right now.
Hmm.
And that's a fun thing to have an erotic play date and learn how to do, because you got to learn how to rig the knots. It's not that easy. You need a lot of practice to get good at that. And so I put together, one of the things I realized that people wanted from me was not just the technique, specifically like how to have intercourse that feels good to her, not just him, or oral pleasuring of him and her, 40, 50 different techniques. I've done all that stuff, but then I realized, and communication skills, but then I realized, oh, what people want are they want ideas for erotic play dates. So I
True.
put together 48 erotic play dates
Oh,
in
wow.
the sex life bucket list.
Okay.
And this is for couples who are like, okay, we should have a bucket list so that when we have our dates, we know what kinds of new things we want to try so we can keep getting better in bed together. And so if you go to sexlifebucketlist.com, there's a
All
PDF
right.
that you download. You can make 2 copies of it. You can watch. I gave you a 40-minute video where I walk you through all 48. You guys take turns, not take turns, but you each write down your A's, which are definitely on my bucket list, B's, it's not on my bucket list, but if it was on yours, I would totally be down to do it. C's are not for me right now. Because remember, something that you didn't like or doesn't feel good might actually be the thing you're ready to learn next.
Yeah.
So I love the Sex Life Bucket List because it has all the stuff I've just talked about on there and 40 other things.
All
And
right.
it'll give you ideas of what you want to. Oh, I like the spanking play date. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And then when you're doing it for real, you've already kind of got it handled and you're good at it.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about the 50. That's my response to 50 Shades is, oh yeah, there's a
Yeah.
right way and a wrong way to do all these things.
Yeah. No, I mean, phenomenal response at that. And, I know we mentioned it in part 1, but you have the best domain names, bar
Yes.
none. Sexlifebucketlist.com. I mean, we're going to link all these up in the show notes, so we'll make it easy for all the happy hustlers. But I highly recommend you guys just get on her newsletter too, because like she has all these new things that she's coming out with on the regular. I mean, Susan, this has been
Constantly.
phenomenal. Truly, I
Thank you,
so
Karen.
appreciate you. Where can people go to get on that newsletter? What's the best place? And just to find you and follow you online as well.
Yeah, betterlover.com has my newsletter opt-in on the top and hundreds of videos searchable by keyword. So if you want to, like, for example, my yoni massage videos are very good. I recommend that if you're like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do for my wife, is go there to betterlover.com and just type in massage. You'll get yoni massage, linga massage, you'll get all that stuff, which will be nice too. And they're all free.
Yeah. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it, guys and girls. Anyone
Thank
out
you.
there, like, go there and just become a student of the sex game, and become, a practitioner of pleasure, right? This is something that I just think can enhance your happiness and joy in your everyday existence, not to mention, you know, your hot span, right? And increasing your health span. So this is phenomenal, Susan. I just want to acknowledge you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Carrie.
again, my dear, for sharing your love, your light, your unapologetic self, your sexual wisdom. I mean, it always, over delivers. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate you, girl.
Thank you so much, Carrie. You know I love to be on your show, and I'm so glad you keep inviting me back. And you asked me such great questions. So thank you. And let me know how things are going on your end when you get a
I
chance.
will. I will.
All
I
right.
sure will. All right. Final
See you on
question.
the other side.
I
Oh,
have to ask you
all
one
right.
because
Okay,
I
but I got to
had
go
your,
soon.
I know. Okay. What does happy hustling mean to you? I ask all my guests, but I got to hear your updated answer.
Hustling for some erotic play dates is what it means for me.
Love it. All right, y'all. Susan Bratton, mic drop. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We are out. Peace and love, everyone.